Welcome back, crew. Today we are diving into MCDM's new RPG, Draw Steel. It's showing you how to build a new character with the rule set, highlighting everything you need to know, step-by-step process to go through and build your character, going over some of the key mechanics, themes, and all the goodies that MCDM is baked into Draw Steel, so you'll feel confident showing up to your table with your new character ready to roll some dice and dive into a heroic, cinematic, tactical fantasy adventure utilizing this latest RPG. But before we do that, quick shout out. We are going to be holding a live actual play for the Draw Steel RPG. It's upcoming Wednesday, September 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. There'll be a link in the comments and the description. Make sure to click that, have a notify me button, and join us. We go live on Wednesday to get to see this system live in action as we put it through its paces, showing off its cool mechanics, kind of highlighting some of the adventures it's designed for. And as always, we're going to be giving away a free PDF copy of the core rulebook. So make sure you join us live for your chance to be able to win that in the raffle. And hopefully you'll be able to get to bring this RPG home and run some draw steel adventures for you and your table. So join us this Wednesday, September 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the T&J Gaming channel. But yeah, let's dive in. But I will say to start, uh, we're a little bit of a different character than I initially planned for. I was going to be utilizing the Null class for Draw Steel. The Nulls are really cool, and I think I can't remember if I mentioned this on this channel before, but I'm a huge fan of monks and unarmed combatants. Like my first character for both either it was a 3-5 or Pathfinder, as well as 5e and Pathfinder 2e were all monks. I'm a huge monk fan. So I was going to go with the Null, but the Null unfortunately does not have access to kits. I thought kits were such a unique piece of the draw steel system that I thought it'd be worth going through and kind of highlighting some of the cool things that come for them. So I still built my Null PC. They're a really cool class if you like unarmed combat, especially because it's almost like a monk mixed with a bit of a psychic too. So you get some really cool things you can do with some great flavor that comes with it. So highly recommend that one, but uh, not running that one today. But with that, we're going to go through and build our PC, starting off on page 16 in the hero book, which is the core rule book for the Draw Steel system. We're going to go through and start their step-by-step character creation process. One of the nice things is they do a really good job of laying that out pretty succinctly. I always like when systems have like a one to hopefully two page or less than two pager, where it goes through and shows you everything you need to know to build your PC. Draw Steel starts it off in the best spot, going through and building your concept. And they do a good job of asking a number of questions too that kind of get you thinking about your character, just to make sure you're building to what your fantasy, what your design, and kind of belief for your character will be is. So for our guy, I wanted him to be a hard as nails orc. I wanted him to be somebody that revels in combat, somebody that fights for the thrill of it, almost for the show of it. He's not one that just likes to beat someone. He wants to make a statement, whatever fight he is in. So we're going to go through and make sure that he's pretty great at fighting. We don't want him to have armor, but we want him to have a wicked looking spear. And we want him to be able to do good chunks of damage as he's maneuvering through the battlefield. So we're going to keep that in mind as we go through. That's our concept that we're building. The next piece that we're going to go into is building out our ancestry. So with this, we wanted to build an orc for this system. So we're going to go through and navigate to the ancestry page for orcs. And you see it gives you a little bit of a cool art piece. And I think I mentioned this during our first impressions video, but one of my favorite things so far with Draw Steel has been the art. It's been like right in my sweet spot for kind of art style. I think Colville's mentioned he's a big comic fan before, so I think they're hitting some of that comic style art, and I like what they've done with it. But it gives you some of the background of the orcs, some of their lore pieces and stories in there. But what we're going to focus on is kind of the core mechanical pieces here. So if you're coming from 5e or Pathfinder 2e even, you'll be a little bit, it's a little different with what Ancestry provides you. It's not going to give you your starting characteristics or your HP or any kind of stat pieces. What it's going to give you is some of the flavor up top, as well as your traits. So the Ancestries all have a number of different traits. Regardless of the Ancestry, you get 3 points to spend. So with these, a number of them are 1 point, but some can be two. So you have to go through and pick what makes sense for your character. So I wanted our guy to be a showy fighter. I wanted him to be able to zip around the battlefield. So one of the first ones I'm going to take is Bloodfire Rush. So whenever you get hit, the magic rushes through your veins, and then the first time in combat you take damage, you get a +2 bonus to speed, which allow you to kind of move a little quicker around the battlefield. The other piece is he's gonna be a frontliner, he's gonna be taking damage, he's not gonna have armor, so I wanted him to have a little bit easier access to recovery. So we're gonna take glowing recovery, that's gonna be our 2-point spend, which will allow us anytime that we catch our breath, rather than being only to roll 1 recovery, we'll be able to roll any number that we'd like to. So this allows us to be on the front line, taking damage, and hopefully keeping ourselves up without having to bother our comrades. So with that, we built out our orc, or the orc ancestry. So with that, we're going to go back to page 16. The next piece we're going to go through is build culture. And I like how they've done culture for this system. They broke it. Actually, let's jump to the culture page so you can see a little bit of that as we go through it. So they highlight kind of what the culture is. Basically, this is how your character was raised, the environments they've grown up in. It's kind of everything that made them from just kind of their childhood up. So it's broken into a number of different areas, and we're going to go through and highlight each of these. We're going to be using a bespoke culture for ours on this one, but they do have a number of different ones that are offered as well, whether being going with your typical ancestry culture or certain style of communities. Ours is a little bit of a mix here, so we kind of went and built our own, which they offer as one of their rule sets. So, culture is going to give you a number of different things. It's going to give you languages that you could speak. It's going to give you a number of different skills that you can get. It is also going to give you edges to recall lore, as well as influence people from your culture. So, something to keep in mind as you're going through. But with this, the other piece is outside of language. It determines what type of environment you grew up in. So we're gonna go through and build Grotson, which was our orc fighter, where he came from, and everything as we go through some of these key categories. So the first one is environment. So they've got nomadic, if you're somebody that's wandered through the waste, rural, if you grew up on a farm, secluded, if you grew up like in a monastery or something kind of away from the crowds, urban for city, and wilderness for kind of growing up in the wilds. Artwork, he's somebody that likes to fight for sport. He fought in arenas for at least a decade. So he's one that's grown up more in the city environment. He was self-taught on how he learned to fight. So we are going to go with the urban. Yes. There'll be a chart that shows us a little bit later exactly what you get for each environment. But to highlight this as we go through, for urban, for your skill options, you get to choose between personal or entry. One thing that the character creation page recommends, and we're going to do this as we build Grotson as well, is you get a lot of different skills for a lot of different things as you go through. So rather than going through and choosing skills each time you get a new one, I recommend going through and just jotting down all of the different skill options you get. And then at the end, once you have your character a little bit more firm in your mind and some of the classes and other pieces picked out, and especially since you get a lot of skills for free from different pieces of your class and career and background and all that, you go through and afterwards come back and choose your skills. So remember, we get one from interpersonal and intrigue, but near the end of this video, we'll go through and pick what we get. So Gratson, he's from an urban environment. The next piece, part of culture, determining kind of what style of culture it is. Is it one that's more of a bureaucratic culture, more of a communal culture? He grew up in a city, so he's going to be more on that bureaucratic side. There's a lot of rules and pieces that went into it. His upbringing, it is more of a kind of a not every man for himself. There's bureaucracy, there's controls, there's laws abound, but it's not something that the community is really interacting as much and looking out for anybody. So this is another one. We get to choose a interpersonal or entry skill for growing up within a bureaucratic culture. One thing I also highlight too, especially there's a lot of things you get to choose in this game, and sometimes you could probably feel overwhelmed. One of the nice things they do is give you quick build options. So if you don't want to go through and choose each of these individually for your PC, you can use the quick build and just gonna go through and select each of the times you get to make a choice. But now that we've got our organization, so we knew we grew up in an urban environment with a bureaucratic style culture, we get to pick our upbringing. So with this, they've got a number of different options, whether it be from like academic to you grew up as a laborer, creative. Our guy, he grew up as a warrior. He grew up in a martial culture. He's somebody that's been fighting in arenas for years. So we're going to go with that martial style. With this skill option gives you, it's a lot more specific than some of the other ones. The other ones, it gave you kind of the broad skill categories. This one is giving you different specific skills you could choose from. So for this one, we're going to take a note for all of these different skills, and then when we get to our section, we'll be able to pick one. Spoiler: I believe we picked alertness for this category. So we've got the key pieces of our culture. We came from an urban environment with a bureaucratic culture, and we were raised, brought as a martial, as a warrior, to be able to fight for sport. So now that we've got that portion, we've got the key pieces of culture down. The other piece we just didn't get into would be language. So language, you get to decide kind of between the different languages there. We're not going to worry about that piece too much, but we would have got a language both from our culture as well as our ancestry too. Uh, with that, let's move to the next piece of kind of building out your culture. You get to pick a career. I like how Joel Steele did this too. So basically, this is determining what you did before the call to adventure hit you. So it could be something more mundane. But for our guy, he's somebody that fought for sport, and they've got a gladiator option. So we're going to be running with the gladiator. Before we get into that, I do want to highlight some of the pieces that come with your career because it's pretty impactful. So with your career, you're going to get to figure out what your inciting incident was, the thing that drew you to adventure, to heroics, to kind of risking your life. It's going to give you skills. I believe each of them give you two skills. So that to confirm that, I'll confirm that in the comments. But they definitely give you some skills. You get another language. You could potentially start with renown or wealth. And renown is basically how well known you are. It's something you can gain through adventures, but with some of the different backgrounds and careers, it'll allow you to start with a little bit so people know a little bit about you. And then as well as that, you get a perk here. So let's go to Gladiator for our guy and see what we get for Rossi. So with Gladiator, you get a couple of cool pieces. So I'm also going to ask you some more questions to go through. We're going to skip the questions due to the length of this video, but definitely go through and fill those out if you are building a PC. With this career benefit, we get two skills from either exploration actually, just from the exploration group. So keep that in mind as we are going in. We get another language. We start with two renown, and we get to pick one perk from the exploration group. And perks are kind of these cool things that do they're aligned with the skill groups, but they give you some type of bonus in that situation. So we'll go through and pick that for Granson as we go through. It also gives us our inciting incident. I think Granson, we want him to be a powerful presence, usually kind of on the performance or intimidation side. But he was making the show of one fight, just really putting this poor soul through its paces. And a heckler spoke up. I was asked him why he was doing this, why he lived his life for blood and sport. And it's something that got to Gratson and decided to push him along the path for adventure. But with that, we've got our career set up so we know all of the cool things that come with our career. We've got a number of different skills that we're going to go through and pick out later. But for now, we are going to dive into our class piece. So with that, I think one piece I'll highlight before we get jumping into class. This is under the class section, and it's something that I think can trip a number of people up. It's just a little bit unique, and I wanted to highlight it as we went through, and we'll make sure that as we go through and pick our class, we go through and show some of this how it works too. But one of the big things they have is potencies. So certain abilities that both heroes and the monsters can cast can have a potency sign. I'm going to highlight how it will look. So, like in the role, it will look like this. And there's three levels: weak, average, or moderate. I think it goes through both in the book, as well as strong. And what's going to happen is typically, if you're utilizing an ability as a hero, it'll be tied to those three tiers of role that you can get. So with the weaker version being okay, the lower role will have that weaker version, and the top three tier will have that strong version. And what this potency means is it's a potency is going to be tied if you're using your own heroic ability to your class's key characteristic. So, spoiler, we're going to be utilizing Frenzy for Gratzen. So, Might is his key ability. So, for this, if we rolled on that table and we got the weak version of we rolled what was 11 or below, uh, whatever ability that we were going to be going for, utilizing the same thing, it would target the A stands for the other character's agility, but it's going to be utilizing our weak potency, which since we're going to be starting at 2 is 0. So if it's less than 0 on that side, they would fall equal to or so that makes it easy. If we rolled better on that one, we had a 2, like we got that top tier. Since we have a 2 on that side, there wouldn't be any minusing. So we'd have that 2. And if they had a 2, less than a 2, they would fall prone as well. And then just for that to just to kind of give the example as well, your potency, your weak one is -2 to whatever that attribute is for your class. The average is -1. Strong is your the base characteristic itself. So that was one of the things that it was a trip me up, but definitely one I had to go through and read. So I wanted to highlight that, especially as we go through and see some of the potency benefits our class gives us. So that we're diving into the Fury. I think the Fury fits perfect for an unarmed warrior who fights for the thrill of it, for the sport of it, just going and raging across the battlefield. So we are taking the Fury with this. Your class determines a number of key pieces. So it's going to determine your potency, which we just talked about. So you see the might there, -2, -1, and then your pure might for the strong potency. It also determines your key characteristics. We start with a might of 2 and an agility of 2. And then for the remaining three skills, reason, presence, and intuition, you get to pick what type of kind of bonuses you would like for them. So you can either choose one of these three. With this, we wanted our guy to have significant presence, so we are going to go through and choose the first one, taking 2 for presence, and then a -1 for reason and intuition. He's somebody that's quick, strong, and just a commanding presence, but he's not the most well read or most observant. So with that, we've got our potency determined, we've got our skills, our characteristics determined. Your class is also going to determine your starting stamina level. So we get a 21, and then we'll get 9 each level. There's other things that can tweak your stamina too. Kits are a big one, and we'll get into that a little bit as we go through. But it also determines your starting recoveries. One thing I'm going to call out too for this is that within the MCDM RPG, Draw Steel, multi-classing is not a thing. So this is one that you have to worry about characters mixing and matching abilities from different classes. Your class is yours. It gives you a number of choices in your class. It's not one that you can mix and match for. So that we've got our stats, we've got our starting recoveries. We get to pick our skills. So we gain the nature skill. We just get that one automatically. And then we could choose any 2 skills from exploration or intrigue. So keep that in mind as we get to the skills section. We'll be able to go through and build those in. So now we get to choose our primordial aspect, which is your subclass for the Fury. So for our guy, I was debating between Reaver and Berserker, but I wanted him to be strong. So we are going to choose the Berserker. That is going to be, you'll see as we go through the class build section, there's a lot of different sections where you can go through and select key pieces related to the Berserker. So ferocity is our heroic resource. It gives us a couple of big things we could do as we go through. The big thing is with ferocity in combat. We start any combat, we get to roll a 1d3. So I could do a d6. You could kind of just number those off if you're rolling in person. And we gain fury the first time we're done damage and different pieces like that that are described in the ferocity section. So with that, we could go through. And then you can see some more on growing ferocity. We're going to go through and focus for the growing ferocity on what the berserker gets. So basically, what this means is the more your ferocity goes up, the cool bonuses or extra things your actions can do. So whenever we use a knockback at 2 ferocity, the force movement bonus is gets bonus equal to our might score. We also get, if we get 4, the first time that we push a creature on our turn, we gain a surge, and then we can only get up to 6 until we hit 4th level. So some of these are level gated for kind of what you can do with those ferocities. So with that, we know a little bit more about our orc here, Grotzen. We now get to go through and start picking some more features. Because with this, as our berserker, we get to go through and we'll pick a kit, which we'll go into in a second, and we get primordial strength. Which gives us a damage bonus to hitting an object, as well as some other benefits noted in that berserker table. From there, we actually finally get to go through and start picking some of our pieces that relate to our PC. So we get to pick our aspect triggered action. So with that, berserkers get line of force. So with line of force, basically any time that you could be forced to move, you could kind of just Uno reverse that and push them in a different direction. A little bit more of that, but for the sake of time, we'll kind of go through that portion quickly. The next big thing that we get to go through and pick is our signature abilities. So we get to pick one signature ability. We get to pick three ferocity ability, so three heroic resource ability, and then one five heroic resource ability. One of the things I like with Draw Steel is how much choice you get. That's one of my big things. If you've seen my Pathfinder videos or any of the other ones that give a lot of good choices, I like when characters get to really customize themselves and feel different from other classes. And they do a good job with that. So with that, for our guy, I thought he's a gladiator. I feel like impaled feels very appropriate gladiatorial style, especially with him fighting with a big spear, being able to skewer people. It's going to use that potency piece that we mentioned. So this will be comparing the opponent's might to our might, whether it be if we roll poorly, that's 0 to 2. So we're going to pick impaled for that one. As I said, next we get to pick our three ferocity ability. For this one, I thought your entrails or your extrails feels very appropriate for a gladiator who probably be fighting for sport. Taking their insides, putting them out seems like something that would appeal to a coliseum crowd. With that, we get to do some bleeding damage. Kind of same thing with that potency save. And then for our last big thing, we get to pick for our class. We get our five ferocity ability. With this one, I thought blood for blood feels appropriate for him too, especially since he does some bleeding before. He's going to kind of focus. I feel like the gladiators are always about blood sport. So we're going to pick that one, which gets us some pretty hefty damage, as well as bleeding and some additional effects that come along with it. And we built our class piece out. So now that we've got class built out, the next big thing that we have to go through is build our kit. And I'll say this is the big reason I picked for the Fury is I wanted to show off the kit piece. I think this is something cool that they do for Draw Steel, rather than worrying about like individual pieces of equipment. They give you a kit that kind of encourages a certain flavor or play style for your PC. With your kit, it's going to give you bonuses to stamina, or to potentially stamina, speed, stability. It's going to give you tier bonuses to your damage, as well as a signature ability and potential options to increase your distance and a disengage bonus too. So with that, our guy, I said I didn't want him to wear armor. I wanted him to have a very big, heavy weapon. I wanted him to be pretty quick on the battlefield. So we decided to go through and pick Panther. The Panther one gives us no armor, heavy weapon. It's going to give us a +6 bonus per tier for our stamina for our character. Speed bonus of +1, so we're going to be able to move a little bit quicker. Stability bonus, and then the melee damage bonus. So I wanted to focus on this one a little bit. So for these, it can be a little confusing. You're like, why do I get one or three different sections? What this is the bonus for each tier of your roll. As we went through earlier, the draw steel, when you roll your 2d10, it shows you kind of the three different results you can have. So for our guy, he's not going to get any bonus for a one or two. He's a gambler. He's putting it all on four, or the tier three, and getting a +4 to damage whenever he gets a tier three result. So it's one that, for those who may be more cautious, you may want to go through and pick like a one that gives you a +1 across the board. But I thought for him, he's a gladiator. He's going to go for that big thing. The last piece it gives you too is your signature ability, which for our guy gives us devastating rush, which makes him even faster across the battlefield. Because we can now move 3 squares towards a target, getting more damage the closer we get to that target, and making a strike too. So that's our kit. That's we've got our class figured out. The last piece we're going to go through is we're going to go through and figure out our complication for our guy. This is an optional rule, but it's one of my favorite pieces that Draw Steel's brought in. And it's my favorite because a lot of systems bring in complications. But I think it brought in 100 complications. I think so. Let's scroll down here. Yeah, they brought in 100 complications. So it's one of those things that they also have some pretty hefty narrative weight too. They give you a benefit and a drawback. And from what I've read, I haven't read them all in depth, but they all seem to be pretty well balanced. So it's not something that's going to be you power game out your drawback. It all seems like it should feel pretty impactful. One thing I will caution as game masters, especially if you are running your own homebrew world, and this applies to complication, but also applies to certain feats and class options across the board. Definitely make sure to have that session zero and highlights how some things that may be in and out of line, because some of these ones are very impactful, can almost world changingly impactful. So just gotta make sure you're aware of that game master, especially somebody that's new to the system, just so you can have that conversation with your PCs. So for our guy, I wanted him to be just fear and a fury, just raging across the battlefield. So we are taking the wrathful spirit drawback. So the cool thing with this one is whenever we are fighting somebody, you get an edge. While we're taunted by a creature, we get an edge on strikes against that creature. And if you're curious what edges are, look at our video. They'll be coming out a little bit later this week. We're going to go through the mechanics and highlight what edges are and more on how the tests work and all those pieces. So if you're confused, don't worry. So with that, we can also spend a heroic resource too to have a double edge instead. The drawback, though, is in combat, whenever a creature makes a strike against us and I'm not taunted, we're now taunted by that creature to the end of our next turn. In addition, whether a casual conversation, if you're involved in negotiation, whenever a creature insults you, you must spend a recovery or be compelled to reply with an insult. So it's one of those ones, especially your negotiations in the RP sections, could get our guy and our party in trouble. Or else I'm just be burning recoveries to keep our calm. So with that said, we've built most of the core pieces. Let's go back to our character creation checklist to see what we've missed. So we've got our class, our kit. One thing that we're going to highlight is free strikes. Every class gets a melee as well as a ranged weapon free strikes. Cool thing with this is it's kind of assuming that you've got weapons on you other than your kit. So for our guy, we've got the big spear, but everybody gets a ranged weapon, whether it be for our guy, maybe he throws an axe or he's got a great bow. We get to determine how that works in our own. And for maybe somebody that's a more of a spellcaster, they can still even have a knife on them to stab if need be. But with our free strikes, these are typically going to be made off turn strikes. So like if we're in reaction to something else. But the nice thing with them is, like in case for our guy, like we're pretty melee focused. If there's a chance we can't rush or use our speed to get to somebody, we can use that ranged weapon strike. So for these, you're going to go through and fill in. Your kit bonuses do apply to these. So you're going to go through and fill in your damage, make sure to apply any kit bonus, and utilize the attribute for your stats that you'd want to use. So that's our free strikes for our guy. We'd add our might, so +2 to these. And then for our tier 3, we'd add that +4. Now, the only other thing, we've got our complications. We'd be able to go through and build some details about our PC. We've kind of fleshed them out as we've went. And then we'd be able to also touch on making connections to amongst the party and all of those too. But for this piece, we've got everything that we need to show up with Watson ready to roll the table. So with that, that was a lot of information. We went through, we built our class, we showed you how the ancestry pieces, everything that you need to know to go through and build your own character utilizing Draw Steel. One thing I'm going to recommend to is there's a cool site called Forge Steel. There's a lot that goes into building a character with the system. And I know for some, having an online creation system is very handy. So I'm going to throw a link in the comments, but big shout out to them. This is a community made one. It's free to utilize, and I highly recommend it. I went through and built Grotzen myself using that system, just to kind of see how everything played out together. Overall, thank you guys for hanging out. Shout out in the comments some of the cool character pieces you built with this system. I'm also going to throw a link to Colville's recent video where he goes through and highlights all of the classes. There's some really cool stuff. Troubadour was also another one I considered doing for this with just the spectacular craziness, another GM conversation level craziness that comes with that class. But check those out. Shout out your favorite classes and features below, and make sure to click notify me for when we go live on September 24th and get our own adventure going with Draw Steel. Thank you for hanging out, and till next time.